Alrighty, looks like we are live. Welcome everyone to the 29-minute hangout brought to you by the Elite Marketing Chefs. If you would like to see future 29-minute hangouts, be sure to come and like us on Google Plus. Just search for Elite Marketing Chefs. You can like our page, and then you'll get invites to the weekly 29-minute hangout where we interview some of the top internet marketers in the industry. And this is Chef Doug DiMercurio. I'm here with you tonight. Chef Katrina is stuck in traffic, but she'll be with us shortly. She guarantees that. But I'm here with a very special guest tonight. Here with a good friend of mine and a top marketer in the internet marketing industry and the network marketing industry as well, for that matter, Mr. Justice Eagan. Justice is, man, he's top 10 all time in one of the most highly known attraction marketing systems out there. He's won, recruiting contests in network marketing, his network marketing business, and in the field of network marketing. He's been a speaker and trainer at some of the major national events, and I know he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars in selling his own products and his own training. So, Justice, I'd like to welcome you tonight, and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Doug. Excited to be out here and get in front of your people and share whatever I can to help. Hopefully, somebody walks away with a little nugget, that has a light bulb go off and helps them get some better results in their business. Lots going on in my world. Working on a lot of stuff in the internet space. I just started a podcast. Still figuring out iTunes and all that good stuff, but as far as I could tell today, it is up, so I can start promoting it. I've been doing some cool stuff with Facebook paid ads, running a lot of webinars. I started my own private workshop that people are getting in. It's monthly training that I'm providing, archiving all that good stuff. Got a big mastermind coming up in Colorado in June. All kinds of unbelievable stuff, going on.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear you'll be out in our end of the country here, the middle of the country, out here in Colorado. So that's cool. So you are a wealth of knowledge, and our audience is pretty varied. Everybody from from brand new beginners to people that have been with us for a long time. And so, tell us a little bit about, just briefly about, because we only have 29 minutes, so tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into internet marketing to begin with.
Yeah, sure. My background was certainly not techie. Doug, my background. I spent 17 years in the restaurant business.
So we have that in common. That's right.
I can appreciate the background of you and Katrina. So I spent 17 years in the restaurant business. I was kind of down and out. I'd worked the plan pretty consistently, saved for retirement, bought my first home, done all that. I lost a job for the first time in my life. Found myself unemployed, 4 months deep. Found myself with no money left, and I went back to waiting tables. I said, I got to go back. I got to put some food on the table. I got to keep some cash coming in. And when I was waiting tables, one of the chefs at this restaurant handed me a business card to a network marketing company. And all of a sudden, the gears started turning. I didn't sleep that night. It was like I saw the circles, I saw the vision. I saw the idea of long-term residual and the idea of, working for yourself and creating freedom and making your own schedule. And I dove in. And I had a long way to go until I started really getting results. What I realized was now reflecting that I was still a shell of myself after having been fired from a job. I had zero confidence. I didn't think anybody would want to hear about business from me because here I was this person who had clearly lost a job, clearly was struggling. I wrote the story in my head that they'd all just see this as a desperation move. And of course, the people closest to me, some of them, added strength to that story by kind of urging me not to go down this road. But I stuck with it. And, after about 6 months of no results, I recruited one person. I was sitting out of work with a back injury, and I had known that people were leveraging the internet to get results. A lot of them were using the same system at the time. I decided to dive in, check it out, and again, you know, for 12 hours I just consumed information, the gears in my head spun, and I said, I can do this. And that was just kind of the beginning. You know, I remember the next day, I got a phone call, and I actually got a really great restaurant job offered to me. And I had been interviewing for this job for a long time. I'd interviewed multiple times, 6 months. The guy had hired someone else. He came back to me, buckled on salary, and after seeing the world of internet marketing for about 12 hours, I turned the job down. And that was the beginning. I always say that was the day I started my business. That was the day, not the day I got my kid. The day I said, no, I'm not going to take my dream job. I'm going to go be an internet entrepreneur, even though I can barely work a computer. And you know, I went out there and I started doing it. And you know, truthfully, it was a slow go. I made $98 total in my first 10 months in business. But when you stick with something you want it bad enough, you figure out a way.
Yeah. So there's, I mean, that's a real nugget right there. I mean, what you talk about it, and I think that's real common. And I'd like to hear your take on that story with a lot of the people that you have coached, and you've seen them eventually be successful. There's probably a real good high percentage of those folks that didn't make very much in the beginning. It's like starting a real business. Yeah. I mean, if you approach it as a business, you got to put in time, you got to put in effort, you got to put in energy, and you got to be willing to not take home a paycheck for a period of time to build that business. So, I mean, so just speak to that for a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting, Doug, and I love this industry, but it's not perfect. Okay, and what this industry, you know, a lot of, I mean, stories sell, right? And a lot of times what happens is we see those people walk across the stage. They grab the big check, you know, they hit 10K a month in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it was, and that's the expectation that trickles down to so many people, right? And what you have to understand is what you don't get is you don't get the journey, you don't get the backstory, you don't get the before story, you don't know the failures they had, you don't know the skills they've developed, you don't know the hard knocks they've gotten in life, you don't know what prepared them for that success, right? And everybody's journey is going to be different. So there is no specific timeline for you. Some of you can go out there and make it happen in a month. Some of you it's going to take 5 years. The one thing, and it's always a loaded question, I always get asked, well, if I do what you tell me, how long will it take? Right? And that's an impossible question to answer. And I understand the nature of the question. It's an honest question, a good question. It makes sense. But here's my response to that question. And I say, well, tell me why you're doing this again. Right? And they say, well, for my family or for time freedom, for this. And I say, well, how serious are you about getting that? Well, I'm super serious. So who cares how long it takes? Right? If that's what you really want, who cares how long it takes? What would 10 years of living a life that you don't really want, right? Wouldn't it be worth it to hustle for 5 or 6 or 7 to have what you do want? You know, whether it's 7 months or 7 years, who cares? Your journey is your journey, and you just focus on being better than you were yesterday. And I think that most people have a difficult time having belief that it's possible for them before they see results. And you got to remember something: results don't come until you have the belief. So you can get yourself in a really nasty catch-22 there, and you really have to believe it's possible for you before you see the first lead come in, before you see the first sale come in, before you have the first recruit come in, before you have the first client come in, whatever your business model is, whatever you're doing, you have to know that success is possible for you before you ever see that first transaction. And if you have doubt, okay, and doubt creeps in, don't get me wrong, but if you're waiting, okay, if something in you is saying, well, once I see results, then I'll know, or then I'll go, then I'll do this, then I'll do that. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know, you really you got to jump and make the parachute open. You got to know this is possible for you, and it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's very similar to saying, well, you know, I've got this fireplace here, and I really want the heat from the fire, and I'll put a log on there as soon as I get the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, I'll light the fire as soon as I get the heat. Yeah. But it's funny because I was watching some of the NCAA basketball games this last weekend, and I think Charles Barkley was talking about that. He goes, you know, because people were asking, can anybody beat Kentucky? And he goes, well, yeah, they absolutely can. But the one thing that will hold anybody back is the first thing they're going to need to have is they need to have a belief that they can beat them. Because if they don't believe, then the first time they get behind by 4 points, they're going to quit playing, and they won't put in what it takes to succeed. Right. So, yeah, that's absolutely true.
You know,
so
I was going to say, one thing I learned from a mentor of mine, you know, and he said this in a mastermind. I'm in a high-end mastermind. You know, was the first session. He said that if you can't see it, okay, you can't achieve it. Okay, and we were talking about vision and visualization and things like that. If you can't see what it looks like, you literally can't have it. Okay, it's not in your reality. It's not in your scope of reality. Okay, so if you can't see what it's like to be successful in this business, if you can't see what it's like to, you know, have more money in your bank account, if you can't see what it's like to go on vacation, you know, I assure you, you can't achieve those things, you know, so the belief has to exist there well before you'll ever experience it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, you know, Think and Grow Rich, I mean, that was written years ago by Napoleon Hill. If you can see it and believe it,
yeah,
then you can achieve it, you know, but if you can't see it, so, I mean, speak to that for a minute, because that's one of those things where if you go back to, you know, when you lost your job and your self-esteem was real low, and I go back to, you know, when I had, you know, 4 restaurants that were doing really well, and then 9/11 happened, and they all turned around, and from making a lot of money, I was suddenly losing a lot of money, and I had a hard time being able to see anything positive in the future. It wasn't just related to network marketing, but really in life. I just didn't want to look ahead. I was just trying to get by day to day. So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing, because I got to tell you, I mean, I've experienced that more times than I care to admit, Doug. And there's times when, you know, when life gets in the way. There's times when, you know, the human condition, you know, when we, you know, let our, I guess, less strong, less empowered side, you know, our very human side, you know, get the better of us in that regard. And here's what I know. I know that if I'm not, if I find that I'm not in a good headspace, if I find that I'm not being productive, if I find that things aren't going the way I want them to go, if I find that I'm not getting my results, you know, I never look at immediately what I'm doing. You know, I always look further back. I always look at my habits. Okay, I always look at my base level habits. How am I eating? When am I getting up every day? Am I doing personal development daily? Am I doing affirmations? Okay, usually that'll be the first thing. I usually, if I get off kilter, I can say for sure that I'm not consistently doing my affirmations, that I'm not consistently doing personal development, that I'm not consistently getting up in the morning and sticking to a simple morning routine. Okay, so it's not the marketing strategy, it's not what I'm doing at that moment that's keeping me from being productive. It's what I did earlier. Right, like we always say, you know, what you're getting paid now isn't on what you did right now. It's on what you did like 90 days ago, right? And what you're doing right now isn't going to show up right now. It's going to show up 90 days. You know, you can boil that down to even on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. How you're feeling right this second isn't a product of what you're doing right this second necessarily. You know, or your level of motivation or focus, or you know, whether you're focused on what you want or whether you're like all wrapped up in your circumstances. You know, that is, you know, that could very well be a product of your habits, how you're starting your day, you know, what you're eating, are you exercising, you know, or are you spending time doing the personal development. So I always go back to the habits if I catch myself, Doug, in a place where my head, where I'm not envisioning the right things, where I'm not looking forward, where I'm not seeing where I want my business to go. And I change those habits, and that's always a good fix.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a writer downer for those of you that are out there. That you know, a couple of things. One is it's not what you're doing right now that's the most important. It's what you do daily. It's what your habits are. It's the things that you do daily that get results. The things that you do on a regular basis. And the other key point there is that, you know, the results that you're seeing today, it's not a function of what you're doing right now. It's what you were doing 90 days ago or 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, in the restaurant business, that's what I always used to tell everybody. It says, you know what, the results we're getting right now, it's not what we're doing right now that's causing this. It's what we did 6 months ago. We're just we're getting the impact of that. So if
Yeah.
we want things to change, we need to start changing them right now. And we may not see the difference for 6 months,
Yeah.
but if we do it daily for we'll see it 6 months from now. So I'd like to welcome my other co-host tonight. She's got herself muted, but Chef Katrina has made it off of the highways and byways and out of the heavy traffic to make it onto the 29-minute hangout. So welcome, Katrina. Have you heard anything of what we've discussed so far? Or maybe she just logged on and she's off getting herself prepared. But
right, I can see the picture.
Yeah. So in any event, no, that's awesome stuff. We've got a question that's related to that, in fact, by Bernadette. She lives in Trinidad, Tobago, which is awesome.
Bernadette. Hey, Bernadette, how are you?
Do you know Bernadette? Great. Her question is, what clues does a person who doesn't have belief yet, what clues do you recognize in that person?
Oh, you mean like if I'm speaking to like a prospect or somebody or a teammate that doesn't have belief?
Sure.
The biggest indicators are language.
I would agree.
So much, it becomes, it's so wild what you can tell about the way somebody speaks, the conviction with which they speak, the words they use, whether they're trying, whether they're hoping, whether they're blaming, whether they're shifting, responsibility off themselves. And I get emails all the time that say, oh, my upline this, or I just need this. Need is the weakest word in the English language, guys. If somebody is telling you they're in need all the time, then they're not coming from a place of power. And language is probably the biggest indicator of what somebody's really feeling, thinking, all that different stuff. They may be telling you something else, but they're doing it in a way, okay? They're using certain words. They're doing it with, with a certain... They're doing it in a way that you will be able to tell that they're not 100% there. And it's funny, when people don't have a lot of belief, or when they're still buying into their excuses, I always say it's like, I don't know, Doug, you were in the restaurant business for a long time. Were you ever a smoker?
No, I never was.
Okay, so...
But I can tell you that 80% of the people that worked in the restaurant were smokers.
So here's the deal. When you're a smoker and you smoke cigarettes, you can't smell the smoke on yourself, okay? I mean, you just you're around other smokers. It's just on you. You don't really smell it, though. The day you quit smoking, okay, is the day that when someone walks by 10 feet away, you can smell that cigarette on them. They had a cigarette, you could smell it. It's like it doesn't matter how far away they are. It's the same thing when you achieve a level of belief in this industry, when you stop buying into excuses, your own excuses, when you start coming from a place where you know that you have 100% control, okay, when you make that shift and you start hearing other people speaking from that place, it's like smelling smoke as an ex-smoker, okay? It's now like you see all the habits, all the language patterns, all the different, I don't want to say weaknesses, I don't like that word, but all the different chinks in the armor of that person because you've changed the way you look at the world. So, that's keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for the way people speak. I think that's the biggest indicator.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to keep an eye on the way that you speak.
Oh, well, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but because I think that's real important for somebody that is struggling right now. Pay attention to your words, because your words, it's not they're not just words. They actually kind of help predict your future. Yeah. And if like you were talking about, need is a real powerful one. If you're always saying I need to do this, what that means is I'm not really going to do it. And so yeah. So but again, those are some powerful indicators. What would you say are some of the key words that you trigger on, other than the word try, which means I'm trying to do it, means I'm not going to do it.
And need to. Try, hope, maybe. Try, hope, maybe, need. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of. I'm not really thinking of others, but it's. I'll say this: words that reflect someone not taking responsibility. Okay, if words are giving power to outside forces, okay, if statements are reflecting that things are in the control of other people, okay, you know, and if I could go through any challenge group right now, you know, and go through the Facebook threads for like the first few weeks, and I mean, you would just see nothing but a bunch of, you know, but people, you know, just speaking in a way where they're not taking control of their circumstances and their results.
Right. Right. So yeah, and that's awesome. So I've got another question here. It says, what did you see that you did not have? In other words, what did you recognize was one of your own shortcomings when you started to make the decision to turn down your dream job?
Income, for one. You know, I saw myself, you know, having a positive bank account. People following me, people looking up to me, people, you know, sitting here asking questions of me. You know, I saw myself speaking from stage. I saw myself receiving recognition. You know, I saw you know, today still like right now, for instance, I'll tell you guys something. I mean, one of the biggest things I want to do is I want to take my nieces on vacation. Okay, I want to take my brother, his wife, and my 2 nieces on vacation. So it's not something I've done yet. You know, that's certainly something that you know, isn't just a drop in the bucket. You know, to get a whole family up and take a whole family on vacation, to surprise them and do that. That is something I really want to accomplish. So I will tell you multiple times per week. You know, in the morning I sit down and I close my eyes, and I mean, I can see what it's like to sit there and play with my nieces on the beach. You know, I can see what it's like to be with them at the resort. And that hasn't happened yet, but I'll tell you, it can happen if I don't believe it can happen, if I don't know, you know, if I don't see it is possible for me. So I make a conscious effort to spend a little bit of time there multiple times per week. You know, and for that reason, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a question right now that I try to ask every week.
Sure.
Of somebody that they're not expecting. That is, tell us one thing about you that nobody else knows.
One thing about me that no one else knows. Let's see. Should it be a good thing, a bad thing? Well, from a hobby standpoint, I'll tell everybody that I am obsessed with the game of pool. So that is something, but I'm so obsessed with it that I don't enjoy it unless I'm playing well. So I quit it all the time. I haven't played a game. I haven't played in a year. I won't like. But yeah, that was a huge passion of mine, and it's something I pick up and put down for that reason. I'm highly, highly competitive. I don't enjoy doing things poorly. So I'm the type of guy that won't sit down. Like if you were like, Doug, if you said, hey, we're playing such and such a card game, why don't you sit in? And I didn't really know how to play the card game. The learning curve would, you know, of me losing, like amongst the group, it would make the game unenjoyable for me. So I would rather go learn on my own and then come play where I could compete. So highly competitive. For that reason, I pick up the game of pool and put it down. I'll only play if I feel that I can devote multiple days per week practicing. If not, I have no interest in playing. I won't enjoy it. So that's kind of there's a little twisted competitive view inside my mind. Do love the game though. I've actually contemplated. I've talked to a few pros about doing some internet marketing kind of stuff in that world. I would love to help pick the sport up a little bit.
Cool. So was that ever another stream of income for you?
You know, there were times when I thought it was. There were times when it was a stream of income. There were times when it killed my income. There was a little time when I lived up in Rhode Island for about 6 or 8 months where I decided that I was just going to play pool and poker. But I'm not really a cutthroat guy, guys. You know, I'm like Mr. Nice Guy here, and Mr. Nice Guy doesn't really last in those kind of environments. So as much as I was a decent card player and a decent pool player, you know, I don't know that I had that killer instinct. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoy it.
So, I mean, I know with myself, I find that I'm very competitive too. I don't like to lose, but I'm not so much interested in being the top player in the world. So generally, I'll train myself up to the point where I can compete with anybody and have fun and have a good chance of winning at any time. But when I get to that point, I kind of plateau, and I really don't push it and take it to that top level. I don't have the killer instinct like you were talking about.
Well, it's funny because I mean I had an opportunity to practice like crazy and get to a very high level, and I found that I went to, you know, would always get to a certain point and then just kind of slow down. And you know, it's an interesting thing. A big book recommendation. I'll make a book recommendation for you guys that I love. A book called The Big Leap. And you know, the premise of The Big Leap is something called the upper limit problem, that we all have a threshold that when we push, you know, it's really about self-sabotage, right? We bring ourselves down to an equilibrium. In other words, we enjoy too much pleasure, too much financial success, too much abundance, that past whatever our threshold is, and everybody's threshold is different, past our upper limit, it brings us back down. And you know, a lot of times you know, I've always felt that that's the reason why sometimes, you know, in something like that I would push so far, but then when you get to that place where it's like you're actually at risk of you know, going to a place, the unknown, you know, that you just kind of you know, throttle back and pull yourself back into that comfort zone. But really powerful book. I've read that multiple times. I continue to read it because I find personally.
Who's the author?
Gay Hendricks.
Gay Hendricks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find personally that still in my business after very big wins that I find myself really, really having to focus and really having to push myself to keep going, to stay motivated, to, you know, to keep my foot on the gas. And you know, that book has opened my eyes to a lot of things in that regard. So I revisit it all the time because I want to stay very on top of that.
I like that. I'm going to pick that one up. I haven't heard of that one before. So that sounds great. I've got another quick question here because we're coming down to our 2-minute warning. I think my phone's probably about ready to beep. But and again, this question is from Mary Cadman. Mary is asking, what advice do you give to somebody who has 2 jobs at the moment and is trying hard to build his or her network marketing business?
Well, I mean, focus on the money-making activities. Okay, prioritize it a great deal. And I know this is gonna sound a little harsh, okay? And this is kind of my nature. You know, Doug knows me from the 100-day challenges. You know, I kind of shoot straight. But stop focusing on the fact that you have 2 jobs and that it's a challenge for your network marketing business. You have the time you have, right? And the more we talk about those hurdles, okay, the more they become in our reality something that's holding us back. And the truth of the matter is you're going to be blown away at what would happen if you made a priority list, okay, if you made a top 3 to-do list. And I mean the priority. So whatever that keeps moving from to-do list to do list, whatever feels like that thing that you just never get done, I guarantee you that is a priority and that you're pushing it off and you're avoiding it. If you just knocked out 3 priorities every day, you would be blown away at how great you felt and how much you got done. Okay? If you prioritize in a way where you got away from the busy work. So I'm telling you right now, to make 5 phone calls, being that probably you're going to get 4 voicemails, to make 5 phone calls every day takes nothing but a few minutes. Okay? To reach out to people on social media every day takes nothing but a few minutes. To get an exposure, okay, if you're sharing with someone a video or whatever the case may be, is a few minutes on the phone, off the phone, back on the phone with follow-up, at least the way I do with a video. So the reality is that's not really taking up a lot of time. Okay, it's all the busy work that takes up the time, and you just got to be disciplined. Stop focusing on the challenges at hand and start focusing on how to prioritize the time that you do have, work with what you have, and make sure that that time is really going towards the things that must get done and not towards the busy work.
Right. So with that, I think that's going to use up our time. You heard my little timer going off there, so we lost the 2-minute warning there. But yeah, I think just to summarize, I mean, what you focus on is what's going to expand. So if you focus on not having enough time, you're going to continue to not have enough time. So don't focus on the problem. Focus on the other side of the problem, on what success will look like when you get there. So with that, Justice, let me ask you, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find you? How can they contact you?
Absolutely. You can go connect with me on Facebook, Justice Eagan, JusticeEagan. My fan page is facebook.com/Master Marketers University. And you can go to my blog, justiceeagan.com, JusticeEagan.com, and go on over, connect, let me know you were on tonight. Happy to help in any way and answer any questions I can for you.
This has just been awesome. I mean, it's amazing how fast 29 minutes goes by, isn't it?
Especially when I run my mouth. Yeah, I don't know when to stop. So
I'm going to invite Katrina to come out if she's there. I see her picture, but I don't know if she's available to speak to us tonight. But I want to thank you again. You can find the 29-minute Hangout on iTunes. We do have a podcast set up there for you if you want to listen to, to the replay of this, or you can find the replay through us on the Elite Marketing Chefs on Google+, and look for the 29-minute Hangout with Justice Eagan. So Justice, I want to thank you once again, and I look forward to us connecting in the future. And for those of you that are on the call tonight, make sure and check out Justice's websites, the links that he just shared with you. Look them up and connect with Justice. So thank you all, and with that, I'm going to call this 29-minute Hangout a wrap.
Awesome. Have a great night.